Well, hello, dear. This is the Jayman show on WBCA 102.9 FM, Boston's local community radio station. I'm your host, Jaiye Bynoe, and my guest, and today we are a special guest, actress Carol Potter from Beverly Hills 90210. Hi, Carol. Good to see you on the show today. Thank you for coming on my show. It's an honor to meet you and talk with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. So can you tell me? So first off, I heard that you write a book, a new book. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, after I left 90210, I transitioned into a career as a marriage and family therapist.
Okay.
And several years ago, a man, a psychologist, contacted me and asked me to write a blurb for his book,
Oh,
which was a children's book.
okay.
He saw that I was interested in mindfulness. So I said, sure, send me the book. It was absolutely a charming, delightful book called A World of Possibilities. It's just
Yes.
inviting children to stop. And so I wrote him a blurb. And then sometime later, he invited me. He and his husband had come to Los Angeles, and they invited me for breakfast. And I always love going out for a meal. And so we had a wonderful conversation, and we got into this whole conversation about parenting and parents. And he said, I've always wanted write a parenting book, but I don't have any children, so people don't think I can do it. And I walked out of the meeting and I thought, well, I'm a parent
Uh-huh.
and I played one on television.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So we got involved in this project together. And with his contacts in the publishing industry, the American Psychological Association was interested in the book as long as it had sort of a niche. It
Oh,
wasn't just general parenting. And he had a lot of children in his practice that had some kind of chronic medical illness. So we wrote a book called When Your Child Has a Chronic Medical Illness
uh-huh.
for parents. Um, it was published in 2022, I think, or 21. I can't remember. Oh, the pandemic just makes the
Yeah.
time just meld
Yes.
together. But we started writing in 2018. And so it took about, 3 years for the whole process. It was just a great honor to work with the wonderful people we worked with. And it came out so it came out, I guess, about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And it's been very well received. And it's just, about 15%. Can you hear the leaf blower outside?
Oh, not gonna get that. No, 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 you're good.
But okay. Um, about 15, some estimates are about 15% of children have some kind of chronic illness, up to
Okay.
like maybe 30 or 40%, even depending on what you include in that definition.
Yeah.
So there's a huge population out there of parents whose children have some kind of medical condition
Mm-hmm.
that the good news is there's been these wonderful medical advances. These children live, they can have great lives. And the medical care has fallen on the parents.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So it's enormous what these parents go through and what they're challenged with. So it's just I hope it's a help to
Mm-hmm.
people who are walking that path.
Yes. I definitely
I
agree.
could I could get I meant to have it with me. Can you hold on just a
Yes,
second?
please.
I'll
Yeah.
pull in a copy.
I love to see it. Yeah. Oh,
So
wow.
this is our book. We were just thrilled. So yeah, the subtitle is A Guide to the Parenting Journey, and we just thought the artist did such a beautiful job in
My God.
capturing that idea in this cover.
Yes.
Anyway, so that was a completely thrilling and kind of unexpected twist to to my story, which is, nothing's turned out the way I
Yeah.
imagined. Like
Uh,
started this thing called life. So
I I understand because actually when I was growing up, I had a chronic illness too as a child. I had problems. Speaking. So I've gone through that myself. So I know. So I can definitely relate to chronic illness
yeah,
because I know it happened to my mother, it happened to me. So yeah, and it is kind of sad that people that still happens. So yeah.
yeah. It's and parents are so overstretched these days.
Yes.
Um, with between school and activities and trying to, most parents are in the thick of their careers when they have children,
Yes.
and trying to balance and manage all those things is tremendously difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. My cousin actually has two kids, and believe me, she's finding it tough. Manage them herself. I mean, being a teacher, raising two kids is tough. Yeah. So
It's really, really hard.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there we it's there's really not much help
Yeah.
around, people who can afford it can pay for help,
Yeah.
but for people who are lower down on the economic ladder, it's just nothing is available. It's terrible.
I
It's
know.
terrible. It's one of the big reasons so many women left the workforce during the pandemic,
Yeah.
because they were the ones who were taking care of the children and
Yes.
dealing with the homeschooling and all the stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
So if we want people to participate in the workforce,
Hmm.
we have to support them when they have families.
I definitely agree. I mean, especially here in Boston, we need some more. We need a whole lot of support now. So
Yeah,
yeah, I definitely agree with you. So,
yeah, very much so.
yeah. Wow. So how did the pandemic? So how did the pandemic affect you?
Well, it's interesting. I live by myself,
Okay.
and um, I had just started a program um, called the Living School. It's a 2-year program out of the Center for Action and Contemplation, and it's
Okay.
kind of a deep dive into mostly Christian mystics,
Right.
although we sort of touch on Buddhism and a little bit of Sufi knowledge as well. And we went through the whole program, and it wasn't until the very end that we actually met together in the same space. We were supposed to be in Albuquerque at the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Yeah.
So I was meeting people on Zoom, and a friend started a morning meditation group, and I'm a longtime meditator, and I was on that group just about every morning, and it helped me stay connected
Hmm.
because I was pretty isolated here. Um, I learned how to go to the store at 7 a.m. for the old people hours when
Oh,
there was not very many people in the room. My housekeeper, I sort of paid her to stay away for 6 weeks until we had a better sense of what was happening.
yeah.
It was very, very challenging, but at the same time, and I did a lot of like online spiritual retreats, a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
some Buddhist retreats where you're just sitting in silence, and other Christian retreats as well. And as a result, my home
Uh-huh.
has this sense of what's the word? It's a friend described it as a sanctuary.
Oh,
The
yes.
energy in here is
Yes.
very calm and restorative.
Uh-huh.
So and getting deeply back into that spiritual path has really been beneficial and really a joy for me. So I mean, I was very lucky in that I didn't have to go.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to go out to a job. I actually gave up my practice,
Oh,
my
wow.
office in 2018, and I still was seeing maybe one or two clients. But then over the pandemic,
Uh-huh.
everybody came back. So by the end of the year, I had about 10 clients again, and
Uh-huh.
a couple of couples who were really
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah.
So I had to retire for a second time.
I see. I
So
see.
I officially retired again last last December, I guess. So just
Really?
this January, I was just I'm officially retired.
Okay, so you officially retired from we retire from the chronic business. You don't do you
Yeah, I do occasionally. Actually, I did a was it? It was maybe 6 or 8 months ago. I did a podcast. It wasn't a conversation like this. It was
uh-huh.
a story.
Okay.
It was a one person story. It's a company that makes dramatic podcasts, and they had a storyline that made it through the whole season except for one episode. So they
Oh,
had this one episode
mm-hmm.
standing alone, and you don't go to auditions anymore. You do everything on your phone.
Yes.
You audition on your phone. So this was it was just voice. So I auditioned on my phone, and they cast me in it, and it was last fall.
Okay.
And I went, and I had so much fun. It was just a joy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not completely closed off to something coming in, but I don't like this. I don't like learning to use the phone as a camera and the lighting and all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's too much. So I'm not really very available.
Okay. I see. Now, now, well, I'm so glad to have you on the show, and as I said, I mean, if everybody knows you from Beverly Hills now 20, because I grew up on the show,
Yeah.
and I've and I and I see a picture of I think I see a picture of Shannon Doherty on the shelf.
Um,
Is that Shannon Doherty on the shelf? The girl? Or those your kids? Are those your kids?
which let me see.
Right there, the girl doing is maybe not.
Up there or
Maybe it looked like this picture of Shannon Doherty, but I could be mistaken.
no, it's probably either me or some friends.
Okay. Uh,
This is from um yeah, this is from my first wedding, and it's
I
with
see.
all my
Okay.
college pals, and I've
Oh,
got some paintings. Some of them are my paintings and others are belong to other people. And this is me.
oh, wow.
Um, yeah, that's when I was you can't really see it that well,
Okay.
but I did a TV show.
Uh-huh.
It's the I think it's the light. This is that what you were looking at?
Oh, maybe. Might have been. Okay, maybe. Okay. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is me. Oh, here, I'll get it. You can see it better.
Oh, wow. That's you. Okay. Wow. Wow. That
So
is you.
this is me
Uh-huh.
playing an FBI agent
Oh,
in
wow.
a show called Today's FBI.
Okay. I see.
I came out here in 81
Oh, wow.
to do that show, and it lasted a season. And this is a photo taken at Quantico, Virginia, where
Wow.
they train FBI agents.
I see.
And I went through an obstacle course. Oh, I was miserable on the obstacle
I
course.
see.
We weren't fit in the way that actors are now fit.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was strong enough, but I couldn't pull myself up by ropes or any that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And then I did some work on the shooting range. Apparently, I had a pretty good eye because I was pretty successful with shooting. Yeah, I shot. I was on the ground shooting a rifle. It was so much fun. The people there were just lovely, and I got to meet the three women agents that my
Okay.
character was kind of built around. So
Okay.
that was a lot of fun. That was actually after the season finished.
Okay.
We shot the pilot in New York,
Oh wow.
but then they it picked it up,
Uh-huh.
and David Gerber was the producer, and Mike Connors was the lead.
Yeah.
What a lovely man!
Wow.
What a lovely man! And so I came out to California and did a TV show for a year, and then everything died.
Yeah.
As happens in that business, you can be going great guns and suddenly it's just like you fall off a cliff.
I know that's almost like real life, things go through and things like it stops, I know what you mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I actually experienced something like that when my mother passed away, 7 years ago. We actually moved to Florida, right? And she had a heart attack and passed away, so and I
Wow,
came I came to Boston because I had no family down there. But believe me, I did not want to leave Florida because it's so warm down there. So I loved it, So,
wow. Yeah.
yes.
So had you been living in Florida when she died, or
Yeah, we moved there. We moved there in September to September 2016. 2016. In November, she just passed away of a heart attack. It was just quick, I mean,
oh,
it's some,
heartbreaking.
I know. I just don't get how that could happen. I didn't see it coming. So
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know.
you
I
know.
know. It's interesting. I have a friend whose husband is in hospice right now, and he's he's 88. She's quite a
Uh-huh.
bit younger, but they're in that holding place,
Yeah.
right? He's at home. He's still fairly comfortable. They're giving him medication for pain, and he has the cocktail if and when he decides that he's had enough.
Uh-huh.
But they're in this limbo state, but they're getting to say the things they want to say,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
And you don't get to do that when it's very quick. On
Yeah.
the other hand, my mother died relatively quickly as well, and without warning. And all of her friends said, wow, that's the way to go. Just boom, right? Not everybody has the desire or the emotional wherewithal to
Yes.
sit with that reality.
Uh-huh.
Or now it's been like he's been home for a few weeks,
Oh wow.
but they're just walking through it. She and her son and her husband's daughter from an earlier marriage came out with his granddaughter, and they were saying, how am I going to tell people that I came out here to be with my grandpa who's dying and had a wonderful time, right?
Yeah.
We don't normally put those things together, but it's very special that they have this opportunity
Uh-huh.
to say goodbye. He's recording messages for people so they can play them when they need to hear his voice. I mean, it's really remarkable what they're doing. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I admit that it's very beautiful, man. Well, what to do? I think it's very great for that they can do that. I definitely agree with
Yeah. Yeah, not everybody can do that. It's challenging,
you. Yes.
but it's so I call her every once in a while and just sort of check in with her and see how she's doing and give her some support. And the conversations are so rich.
Uh-huh.
I want to keep doing that.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're doing that. We definitely need more. We need more people to do that kind of stuff. I definitely, I
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like there's kind of two Americas. There's areas in this country where people have to deal with death on a daily basis
yes,
because of gangs and guns and drugs and all these kinds of things that cause havoc in certain parts of the country. And then there are other parts of the country where it's like death doesn't exist.
yeah,
We want to pretend, push it out to the margins, and um, that doesn't that doesn't really work.
yeah. I understand. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I'm curious, were you a personal fan of 90210 or
Yes, I remember when I was real little. My mom turned it on, and I just started
something
watching.
to watch?
Yeah, I was like, wow. I mean, then I saw you. I was like, wow, this is a wonderful actress. And I saw Shannon Doherty. I saw the whole cast. I was like, wow. And I remember my mom actually bought me. She actually bought me a Brenda doll. When you guys were so big, I was like, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So my question was, what was like work on that on 90210? You guys look so happy, right?
Well, I mean, it was a wonderful opportunity. And I'd reached this place. It was one of those periods I'll never work again
Uh-huh.
kind of feeling. And so this thing showed up. It was kind of like rising from the dead in a way. My career rose from the dead.
Uh-huh.
Um, so it was a great honor and privilege, and it was a lot of fun at times, and it was fascinating to watch, all that wave of fame
Uh-huh.
that carried mostly the kids,
Yeah.
the young people in
Uh-huh.
its wake. I mean, as the parents, we were a little more distanced from it, and of course, we both Jim Eckhouse and I were married, and we had kids, and so we had a kind of stability at home that a lot of these kids they didn't have that. They were on their own, and it was fascinating to watch how fame affected them.
Yes. Uh-huh.
It
Yeah.
would have made a fascinating sociological study if you could have known it was going to happen, to set it up. But of course, you can't do that.
Yeah. I see. Do you still keep in touch with the cast sometimes? Talk to them?
Um, I used to run into Jim Eckhouse quite a bit because we would audition for things,
Uh-huh.
similar role. He'd be the dad and I'd be the mom kind of thing. We didn't usually read together, but we often showed up at the same auditions. Um, but I haven't seen him in a long time. I mean, the last time and there's been a podcast by Peter Fieri.
Uh-huh.
What's it called? I don't know. I can't remember what it's called, but he's been working through the whole show, all 10 years, every episode's kind of, and so I've been on that a few times and
Uh-huh.
seen people. I've been in contact with Karen Rosen, Chuck Rosen's wife, who was one of the writers on the show, and Chuck. But the last time I really saw a lot of the gang was probably at Luke's funeral.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was a beautiful memorial up in Burbank
Uh-huh.
that they organized, um, and there was no press, so
Impressive.
it was just us and a nice big auditorium, and then several of his childhood friends spoke,
Okay.
and just a remarkable human being.
Uh-huh.
In addition to a wonderful actor, he was just a lovely man, lovely, lovely man. I felt, and I did the reboot
Uh-huh.
with the cast, which was so much fun. I was thrilled to death that they invited me to be part of it. And I don't know if you caught the reboot, but they were playing themselves trying to get a show on television.
Okay.
And so they contacted me since I'm a therapist, to
Yeah.
do a therapy session
Uh-huh.
on this episode. And gosh, we shot, it took most of the day, but we're sitting in this lovely room. And I mean, everybody was there except Shannon. She was still coming in. She hadn't started on the show yet. So I didn't get to see her. I was very disappointed that I didn't get to see Shannon.
Uh-huh.
But I saw everybody else and we had such a great time. That was 2019.
Okay.
It was probably my favorite day of shooting ever. I
Uh-huh.
thought the show was very well written, very clever, very much winking at itself. Ideas about celebrity and growing older and all of that stuff and popularity, and it was charming and funny. And I was sorry they didn't do another episode, another season, but gosh, what a thrill it was to be part of that. And that was like just before the pandemic,
Yeah.
which really hit in 2020, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
But the biggest thing when in 2020, for 2 years before that, I'd
Uh-huh.
been doing a play in Beverly Hills at the Doheny Mansion.
I see.
It was a wonderful play about it was loosely based on the Doheny family.
Yeah.
And Charles Doheny was a big oil man.
Uh-huh.
And he got involved in this Teapot Dome scandal during the Harding administration, where they were using federal lands for extracting oil, right?
Uh-huh.
and and then there was this horrific murder suicide in this um, home, that this mansion that we were performing in.
Yeah.
So we loosely tell the story of this family through the lens of the writer. She changed all the names, and it's sort of her imaginative take
Uh-huh.
on what might have happened.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun to be back acting in a play. I can't even tell you. I had such a great time. And, when the pandemic hit, obviously they couldn't do that anymore. And because it went on for so long, the project is kind of dead. They're sort of over it. They have a lovely theater in Beverly Hills High School. It's called
Uh-huh.
Theater 40, and they put on was put on 6 or 8 productions a year. But this was sort of a special. We did it in the month of January or February. Did 13 to 15 performances, and gosh, that was fun. I love theater. It's so much more fun than than film. Film can be very isolating
Uh-huh.
because they're off doing this scene and you might be in your dressing room,
Yeah.
waiting to be called. Whereas theater, you're all there all the time, all together,
Yeah.
right? I love that sense of community.
Yeah. I definitely understand. I used to work in theater, so yeah.
Did you?
So I get what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you know what I'm talking about.
I do, yeah, so yeah. Wow. So do you have do you have plans to maybe appear at any conventions maybe?
Well, I have done a few. I did get approached by somebody, but I haven't followed through on it. I have a grandchild now my son lives in Seattle, and my grandson's 18 months old. And so I've been traveling so much. It's like the pandemic. I didn't travel at all. And then I sort of went wild.
Yeah.
Um, but I recently rented an apartment up there. So I'm going to be spending more time in Seattle. And my travel schedule, it's so confusing as it is, that it's just the idea of adding another trip in
Uh-huh.
feels too complicated.
Yeah.
Though I have done a few, and it's always lovely to meet the fans.
Yeah.
Everyone's so enthusiastic, Jay. I just feel like it's like, wow, I was part of this thing that meant so much to people. And I mean, at the time, we knew it was a phenomenon, but that doesn't really tell you how it's touching people's hearts.
Yeah.
And to see how much it's touched people's hearts,
Yeah.
that's that's a gratification I could never have planned
Mhm.
or even thought of. You know, to be a beloved character,
Yes.
you know, that people return to over and now that you can, you know, they came out with DVDs at one point, and you can find it online, and
Yeah.
you can find it on these streaming channels. So it's
Yeah.
people can stay connected with this show.
Yes.
It's really it's amazing. And
Yes.
I know that it's been there was a wonderful story of a young woman who had serious Lyme disease and really spent most of a year in bed,
Uh-huh.
not able to really function. And one of the shows that she watched to keep her spirits up was 90210. And it has that kind of resonance for a
Yes.
certain generation. So, how old were you when your mom turned it on for you?
I think I would say I was maybe 10 or 11 around there, you know. Yeah.
Okay. So, you're just a little bit older than my son
Uh-huh.
and a little bit younger than my niece. She was 14, and it was like, oh my God, this is our favorite show. And
Yeah.
we wouldn't even know about it except that your aunt is in it. But
Yeah.
so that was the sort of the maybe the first sign, now, though I didn't put it together,
Uh-huh.
that, oh, this is there's a need out there for this kind of show, a show that takes teenagers seriously kind of on their own terms.
Uh-huh. And 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 like I said, you definitely took me serious on iTunes too and inspired me, you know. So, you know.
Right, right. And you saw these older kids getting involved in things, and
Yeah.
yeah, and of course older kids are always the biggest draw for younger kids, right? You're much more interested in older kids than adults. Adults are boring.
Yeah, but I was also interested in you myself because on the show you play such a good loving mom, you know. So it's like wow, you know. So and
Well,
then
you know, it's interesting because people often ask me about what do my client, how does it affect being in the room with clients? And I think that as you say, I was the mother who understood, right? Who listened.
yes,
And so that's, as a therapist, that's my job.
yeah,
So occasionally people would, I remember this one couple came in, was these two men, and the one guy was looking at me and he's going, oh, you look so familiar. Oh, you're you're the mom on 90210, right? I said, yeah, yeah. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Okay, so now what's happening with us is, I mean, immediately to
uh-huh,
what their own concerns are, right? But it's we sort of had to get it out of the way.
yeah,
Although I had another couple, we had worked together for a while, and it was the end of our work, and he knew, but she hadn't
uh-huh,
figured it out. So it was and I didn't know he knew.
yeah,
So at the very last session, he's saying, "Don't you recognize her? She's that mom from 90210."
really, yeah,
You just don't know. Often it's you don't even realize. I don't even realize it's in the room because somebody knows, and they're just happy to be talking to Cindy Walsh.
yeah, you
It
know,
makes them. It is it's comforting that you already have a sense of connection to me. So it's certainly never gotten in the way.
uh, well, that's wonderful. I mean, because just talking to you is like it's like I'm talking to Cindy Walsh, you know, and you're kind of part of it still. It's just amazing that I got to have you on my show, you know. It's like I can't believe you now, you know.
Well, thank you. I know, isn't it? It's funny how we take celebrities
Yeah,
and we put them into a separate category as if they're not quite fully human, or maybe they're superhuman or something like that. And you know, I think one of the things I've tried to do with in my life is kind of try to deconstruct that celebrity thing,
yeah,
because we're just people.
uh-huh.
I mean, I don't think of myself as a celebrity, and
No,
I don't think most people who are, you know, the big stars like George Clooney. He doesn't go around thinking of himself going, oh, George Clooney. I mean, he understands what he can do
Yes.
with the power and the fame that he has,
Yes.
right? But he doesn't think of himself as George Clooney. He's just George. I don't know. He's, and unfortunately, I think I was walking down the street once and he's looking at me. We go past, he turns around and goes, "You're somebody."
Yeah.
I'm going, yeah, I wanted to say, and so are you. You're somebody too. But what was the underlying thing was, I'm somebody and he's nobody,
Uh-huh.
right? And you're not somebody unless you're, this big
Yeah.
thing. And we're all somebodies. Everyone is a blessed child of whatever you believe
Yes.
got this whole thing going, right? We could call it God or spirit or whatever it is. We are all blessed. We are all endowed with being.
Yeah.
And so often people want to give that away
Yeah.
to someone who's got some magic pixie dust around them, not realizing that person may be suffering things you
Uh-huh.
have no idea about,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the way it is with everyone. You pass somebody on the street, you don't know what they're going through. What was it? Somebody said, be kind, for everyone is waging a huge battle.
Uh-huh. That's true. That's
Yeah, I mean, I can just see by your face that you really get what I'm talking about. That's
yeah. Oh, I
that's what's important to me.
guess. Uh-huh. I know, and I agree, because my mom was actually the same way, It's like, she said, we're all people, children of God, and she's right, She said the same thing to me, like you're saying to me now, I can definitely, feel her spirit, through you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, yeah, my mom died about, gosh, it's 20 years ago, or a little more. And I know she's right here.
Yeah.
She's right here. In a funny kind of way, in a way she wasn't during my life. I think that I now have more confidence,
Yeah.
both in her love for me and my love for her.
Yeah.
But I tell you, Jay, I, so many times, oh, there was stuff I want to share with her. I
Uh-huh.
want to show her my book.
Yeah.
I want to share with her the path I'm on. I just, um, as my brother said after she died, the way he characterized it, the conversation is over.
Yeah.
Sort of like a one-way conversation now. But I definitely feel her spirit. I think of her and my dad just about every day.
Yeah.
About every day.
Yeah, and I have things about my mother as well. I mean, I wish I could show my college degree from Oxford Community College. Tell that I got in school. I'm trying to get my bachelor's in communication. So much I want to share for too. I feel
Yeah.
I definitely understand what you're saying. I definitely get it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, she sounds like she was a wonderful woman.
She was. You would. I wish you could have met her. You would have loved to met her. She was a.
We'd have a lot to talk about all that.
You definitely.
Yes, being a mom and now being a grandmother, um, these are the richest paths of my life. That deep intimacy you have with a child, and yet you also have to be the authority, the guide, the hand holder, the comforter. There's so many roles that you have to that you are committed to in
Yes.
taking care of a child and nurturing that child and helping that child grow
Uh-huh.
into a viable human being and someone who's going to make a positive contribution to the world,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
I've been very blessed with my son. Is a great guy, and he's very appreciative of how I've been in his life. And it sounds like, um, your mother was also knew of your appreciation for her. And
Yes.
that means everything to a parent, everything.
Yes. Yes, it does. And I can definitely, it's like I miss almost every day, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I do. She was definitely, I mean, just like talking to you, it's like talking to her, you know. It's like, it's like, it's something about it, you know. I mean, it's like you see someone else through, through you, and it's like a wonderful, wonderful feeling, you
Yeah. Yeah. That was so, I think that my mother died in February
know. Okay.
and about 20 years ago. And I remember my birthday's in May, and I remember waking up on my birthday,
Uh-huh.
and it seemed incomprehensible
Okay.
that the body, that person who'd given birth to me, was no longer
Uh,
there. It
yeah.
seemed so wrong somehow. And yet that is the way of life. I mean, we all remember the beginning of The Lion King and that glorious the circle of life.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and that's what we have to come to terms with.
Yeah, that's true. Because actually, because my birthday, birthday is in May too. May 8th. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
8th, and yeah. So I think my mom would, especially then, you know.
yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. I think about my mom. It's like it's not fair. It's not fair. She's not here. I mean,
Yes, the one person that really knows, was really there when you were born,
yes.
is
Oh,
gone.
yes.
I know, and I, as I meet new people, I know since both my parents are gone, it doesn't, there'll be things they'll never know or understand about me because they haven't met my parents,
Uh-huh.
you know, and that makes me sad. Um, but you start now they have to meet my children, my son and his wife and my little grandson. So you just have a different perspective at my stage of life where you're closer to the end and you're looking down the generations rather than up the generations,
Uh, yes.
it's it's strange.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I mean, everything you're saying is very true. I mean, everything you said, is very true. I definitely agree with you. It's like a whole new generation is gonna, have questions that I maybe kind of be able to answer. And you,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
totally get it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, this is such a fun conversation. I don't think it's like any other conversation I've ever had on one of these kinds of situations. So I really thank you for that. We sort of, blew the box open.
I'm definitely glad you did. Because there's so much I want to share with you and ask you. I mean, but this was definitely a good conversation. I mean, because I think there's some because both our parents died. Right? Well, actually, my father left when I was 7, so I'm not sure if he's still alive. But
Right.
but my mother passing was it just affected me. And I can see that it definitely
Very difficult. Yeah.
it definitely affected you. So I think we have something in common. So and I think that's good. That we can share this that I can share this
Yeah.
because I think if you because I think I think you almost like a devils too, and also as a mother, because just like yeah. So well, we can. I definitely feel comfortable in confiding with you, So and so
Yeah. 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 It's nice to find we have that connection, isn't it?
we do. I think that God brought us together for a reason. So I'm glad He did. That's
Well,
all.
it's interesting because my son and I were very aware that our relationship is changing now that he's got a child because he and I are now on the same side in a
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
right? I don't want to say we're against Gray. Gray is his name, but we're the adults
Yeah.
and Grace the little child, right? And we know what our job is. And so he's now understanding things about his upbringing.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry. He was a terrible sleeper. His
Oh,
son is a great sleeper.
uh-huh.
And so I never let him forget that he was a terrible
Yeah.
sleeper. Because when Gray doesn't sleep, you know, that's the hardest thing for new parents is that lack of sleep is
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Yeah. I see it. My cousin has two kids. She can get much sleep either, because two kids, Nehemiah is three, now it's one. So yeah, so it's hard to find sleep too, And I still have no kids, right? But I can understand, sleep is important because I love sleep myself, So but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So sleep is stuff. So sleep to me is very important. Especially working two two part-time jobs. So it's important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an important job. And I don't think that our culture really honors it or supports it nearly as much as it needs. I
Yeah.
mean, in this day and age when mostly both parents are working or people are raising children on their own, much more than when I was a when I was growing up, it was the 50s and it was it was in our neighborhood, it was rare that a mom worked outside the home. So, I mean, she was kind of there
Yeah. Yeah.
taking care of all that stuff, the dry cleaners and the shopping and the dishes and, making sure everybody got what they needed.
Yeah.
Um, that wasn't the case for everybody,
Yeah.
obviously. Some people have always had to have two incomes,
Yeah.
but these days, almost just about everybody needs two incomes just to survive, just to get anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I went to college, so I could have a social degrees and get a better job, because two jobs, isn't, it's still not enough, So I'm trying to go to school, get my bachelor's degree in communications, so I can have much better future.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Is that what you did?
Yes, I went to college. Yes, I went to school after my mother passed away, and I went to college and got my associate's degree. And now I'm trying to get my bachelor's degree so I can maybe get a job in California or Florida, what's warm, So yeah, yeah. So because I know that because I realized now that instead of my mom like here, I had to have a college degree, So now and now I have that, So it's opening doors for me. So I think that's gonna.
Yes, 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 yes. And and there's a lot of questioning of that. I'm trying to think. I was reading a biography of a man named William James who went to college, I want to say the late 1800s or something. And at that time, one half of 1%
Uh-huh.
of the population went to college.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole different thing from 70% or 80%. And so college has to morph so that there are different kinds of approaches that can address different populations' needs, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's very interesting to see how that's all changing, and so many women are going to college, and then fewer men are now going to college. So we need to find ways to connect men to a not only a good living, but a good life, a good sense of themselves and what they have to offer the society, engage them so that they feel integral and not superfluous, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I think that feeling of outsideness drives a lot of the mayhem you see going on in the country today.
Yeah.
People don't feel,
Yeah. Did you go to college too?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Well, and I had to go to I had to get a master's in
Oh,
order to become a marriage and family therapist.
okay.
So when I left the show in 95, we finished up, I guess, in the spring,
Uh-huh.
95. And that September, I
Uh-huh.
started a 2-year graduate program
Okay.
up in the valley.
Okay.
And that was fascinating. It was really great program. It was, I mean, it had all of the intellectual content needed, but it also was very experiential. So when you were talking about issues, you were connecting with sometimes with what do people have, like for instance,
Uh-huh.
had to go to a 12-step meeting.
Yeah.
You didn't just learn about 12-step. You had to go to a meeting and see how it operates.
Yeah.
And so it was really, really helpful, and when we're studying the influence of culture, right? You have to go to some kind of event where you're in the minority,
Yes.
right? And so, all of these ways of making other people's experience more vivid to you so
Yes.
that you can take that in the room with you.
Absolutely.
So it was really an enjoyable program, and I
Yeah.
learned a lot.
Yeah.
I really learned a lot.
That's I'm so glad you did that, you know. So what made you decide to leave down? So what made you decide to leave down to 1-0?
Um, Basically, they didn't invite me back.
They didn't. I'm sorry. Here, did
Yeah, no, both the parents were let go after the fifth season. And I think it's because the kids were in college and, they felt like having the parents around all the time. I mean, I'm guessing, but having the parents all around all the time was like too much. Like
That's
we would have been hovering.
uh,
And so and there wasn't enough time in the episode to really develop our storylines very much anyway. So so they let us go. I mean, Jim stayed in the field and he's done a lot of other things since then. He's done some films. He's done several plays in the area that I've seen. He's done some directing, really some good stuff he's been involved in. But I just had this hankering. This was like when I was in college, this is what I thought I was going to do. Even though acting was something I'd always wanted to do when I was young,
yeah.
I didn't I didn't know how to go about starting an acting career. But when I was in college, there was the anti-war, Vietnam War was still going, and we had the anti-war movement, and so sort of like so I went to college, and then everything kind of exploded, and it was sort of like, now what do I do? And I had this opportunity to be part of a summer theater that some friends were doing in New Haven,
Uh-huh.
and I ended up staying there for a couple years and meeting some people and getting some connections. And I went to New York. I had a job for a while. I connected with agents, so things started moving. So I just kept walking. I just kept going. Went to my classes. I took singing. I took dance. I took acting lessons, acting classes, and just kept going. And then here I was, found myself in LA. And now I moved here in 81. So I'd been here almost 15 years. And I'd had some good opportunities, some beautiful opportunities, and a lot of frustration and heartbreak. And I thought, I want to try this other thing too. And it's really been very satisfying to have both of these things in
I
my world.
I could definitely tell. I can tell it also made you very happy, you know. So uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's been a
yeah,
rich life, quite varied and enjoyable. And being a therapist, being an actor, you can be working your butt off
uh-huh.
and make no money at all
That's true. Yeah,
and do some of your best work.
yeah,
and you can get paid thousands and thousands of dollars for half a day's work.
Yeah.
So the relationship between work and money is completely crazy. Therapy,
Uh-huh.
you put in an hour, you get paid for your hour. As you work more hours, you make more money, and there's a logical trajectory to your career in
Uh-huh.
the way there isn't with acting. I what if one of the one actor, elderly actor, talked about, somebody asked him about what his career was like before this one film, and he said career was more like a careen,
Ah,
just a wild swinging. So it was good to experience something quite different.
yeah. Yeah. And would you ever consider going back to doing to doing TV doing TV?
Um,
Yeah.
as I say, they invited me up to do the reboot, and I was thrilled to do it. I mean, something like that I do in a flash. What I really I it's the auditioning that gets wearying after a while. And I what 90210 did for my career is people have sort of unrealistic expectations of one show. They'll think, oh, her career is made for the rest of her life and she never has to think about money again. Mm-mm-mm. Um, what I did get was people know who I am.
Uh-huh.
So when I read for a part, I would go directly to the casting director.
Uh-huh.
Usually they have an assistant who's screening the auditions
Mm-hmm.
and then passing along a couple to the main casting director. So I usually go directly to the casting director, but it doesn't mean I get offered parts very much.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I'm not saying I would turn something down necessarily, but my real focus is my grandson right now. He's at this very tender age. And I know that, the first 10 years is where you really got to put your energy in, because once they go and become teenagers,
Uh-huh.
they don't want to hang out with grandma anymore. So I want to focus on that. Um, be a good grandma.
I definitely understand, but I know the council's doing I heard that the council might be doing a nanny's con in Tampa, Florida, in the fall. Maybe if
Oh,
it,
really?
yeah, I was hoping that you might be a
Well,
part.
if they, yeah, I mean, if they, sometimes they include the parents and sometimes they don't. So we'll see. But
Yeah,
I'll definitely keep my eyes open for it, and it would be nice to see it anyway.
yeah,
I was so impressed with the reboot and the way they did it. It was a lot. I had a kind of I wasn't sure about the concept, but I thought they handled it beautifully.
yeah. They definitely did, because I actually met Sharon Doherty and that is calling this last month, in Connecticut. She was so nice, I mean, I shook your hand, I shook any guy from Toy Sponge, J Space, and they were all so nice, So yeah,
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Were
yeah.
you at one of those conventions? Is that how you met them?
Yeah, it was 90s calling last month in Hartford, Connecticut, and so I went down. So
Oh, great.
I met them. Oh, they were so nice. So, especially Shannon, she gave me a big hug. I was like, wow, Shannon Doherty hugging me. It was just a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, she's lovely. I'd love to connect with her again, actually.
Yeah, I actually tried to. I actually invited her to come on my show. So she happens, so for an interview. So yeah, and
Oh,
yeah,
good.
but
Good.
like I said, I mean, it was an honor just to get to actually meet them. People actually grew up watch TV, so much I love them. It was just a blessing, and yeah, and I'm hoping that they'll come to Tampa in the fall. You'll come too, because I would definitely love to meet you in person. So
That would be lovely. I'd love to meet you too, Jay.
that'll be a blessing. I can't think of anything better to go just actually get to meet you. I mean, at a convention, it'd be a blessing. Yeah. So what now? So what now? Are you in California? Are you in California right now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm heading up to Seattle on Thursday.
Okay, Seattle. Oh, okay. I see it. Yeah, my cousin actually lives in Seattle. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love Seattle. I'm glad that they decided to, that they moved to a place that I want to be. It helps.
Yeah. Are you gonna fly out there? Are you gonna
Yeah.
fly?
No, I'm going to fly up. I'm going to be going back and forth for quite a while. I'm not ready to get rid of this house yet.
Okay.
Um, there's a lot of work to do before I can let anybody else,
Yeah.
got so much stuff.
Well,
Getting rid of our stuff.
yeah.
It's a major process.
I understand, but to me, the definitely looks like a beautiful house. I mean,
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I've been here for, when did I move here? 88.
oh wow, you've been there since then.
But I have been here a long time.
Oh, so you living there? So you living there living there while you doing now?
This is where I lived when I was doing 90210. Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's been home for a long time, so it's hard to think of another home, but I just rented an apartment. A friend and I are gonna share it. She's got a son up there whose wife is pregnant, so she's starting grandmotherhood for the second time. She's got another son with older children.
That's,
So we'll be sharing that together, and that'll be nice. So it's a new adventure. I'm eager and curious to see what's next, how it all plays out.
yeah, see, and you definitely not gonna be doing W anymore, right? You're done with doing W for a while.
Say that again.
Okay, and you're not gonna be doing any more sessions.
Oh,
The-
yeah, yeah. I actually have a couple of clients that I still see, but it's all online.
okay. Oh, okay.
But I'm not taking any, I don't take any new clients or
Okay, so you're not so you're not taking so you're not taking anybody new in now. Okay. Okay.
no, no. And I'm not taking back anybody who came during, as I say, they came back during the pandemic, and then I just was, it was too much, too many people. So
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
I referred them all out to other people.
okay. Well, I definitely understand. I mean, you have to get to do, you have to get to do, do what's best for you. I definitely understand you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. No.
Well, thank you, Jay. This
Okay.
has been a marvelous conversation. I love that we strayed far from the acting career
Yes.
script, and we really got into some really interesting stuff
We
about
did.
life.
We did. This is a wonderful interview. And before you go, can you tell me how your fans, my followers can follow you and support you?
Let me see. Well, I do have an Instagram account. I believe it's Carol Potter 90210.
Okay.
I'd have to check on that, but I think that's what it is. And and I have to say I've been meaning to, you helping me remember, I've been meaning to post a link to that um podcast that I did. It's a
Uh-huh.
kind of a spooky ghost story, and people might enjoy it. And how else? That's really it. I'm not very good at social media. I try to keep up, but I'm not very good at it.
Oh, yeah, I understand, it's all new to me too, so I definitely understand, what you're saying. But I definitely want to see this Halloween podcast. I definitely want to hear it, so
Okay, well, I'll be sure to send you a link, and hopefully I should be able to do that. I probably wait until after I get to Seattle. I have a lot to get done in the next couple of days.
I definitely,
But yes, I'm going to add that. Make sure you get a link
okay, thank
as
you.
well as putting it on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. This was an honor to meet you and talk with you. I mean, to me, you're like my second mom, so
Oh, thank you, Jay. That makes me feel really good.
you really touched me, made me smile. Just talking to you is like it's just a blessing. I mean, I mean, you kind of part of, like, in a way, you're also Cindy Walsh, just to have you on my show. It's like That's just the one I'm feeling. I can't explain it. I'm just so happy I got to talk to you. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you. This has been a lovely conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
absolutely. You're always welcome. Anytime you want to come on, you're always welcome. Anytime, So if you feel free to call me, reach me anytime, day and night. I'm always here. So we can talk whenever. So I can say you, like I consider you my best friend. I felt God brought us together. So you always feel definitely a part of my life. So please stay in touch with me, and call whenever you want. I mean,
Thank you.
God bless you. I'm always here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.